On today's Andy Ari on 3 presented by BetMGM, we open the mailbag and you have some great questions. For example, why are we in such a hurry to change the college football playoff? What happened? They kept it the same way for 10 years, and why all of a sudden they want to change things? Good question. Also, who is the most impactful quarterback of the 2025 season? Not necessarily the best one, but the one his team needed the most. Plus, with Clemson and Florida State playing the way they are on the field now, does that change their objective of leaving the ACC? Those questions and more on today's Andy and Ari on 3 presented by BetMGM. This show is presented by BetMGM, and there's no better place to be during March matchups than Las Vegas. This year, college basketball fans can win a VIP trip to the Court of Legends event featuring the Cavender twins. Simply place sports bets, and your position on the leaderboard will determine if you win one of the 25 grand prize packages. Just sign into your BetMGM account, opt into the promotion, and start placing sports bets of at least $10 to climb the leaderboard. Make this March one to remember. Join the Court of Legends leaderboard and make it legendary. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, don't forget to use code CFB, that's CFB is in college football, to claim your new player offer worth up to $1,500 off your first wager with BetMGM. So come see us on the Court of Legends and make it legendary with BetMGM. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers are not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in the U.S., call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona. Call 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. Call 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa or 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code CFB and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. Welcome to Andy and Ari on 3 presented by BetMGM. We are opening the mailbag today, Ari, and we have some excellent questions, including one from someone who read your column this week about the college football playoff, about essentially the sport falling ass backwards into a system that works pretty well. Not necessarily intentionally doing it, but then all of a sudden wanting to make major changes to it. We say this as you had one SEC coach say this week that he thinks the 2014 playoff might be a decent idea. Kirby Smart, by the way, also said something similar to the AJC. Josh Heupel got all the attention when he said it to Chris Lowe, but Kirby Smart has said something similar. We've heard Eli Drinkwitz say it in the past.
You know, before we get into the question, can I write in a mailbag question to you and to the listeners?
Yeah, sure.
Because it's very interesting. Like, my audience and my following personally on X, Twitter, is different than the general following that On3 has. So sometimes, like, the responses that I get to things that I say or write vary greatly from what you see in the mentions from On3. I'm sure you have this experience too, Andy. Mm-hmm. And in my headline of the column, and I suggest you go read it if you're interested in this, I wrote it for Thursday, March 5th, which was yesterday. But I wrote that it was a highly functional system and that they lucked into it, right? That's basically the premise of it. And what's the point of changing it now? And highly functional is in the headline. And there were a lot of responses to the On3 main account from fans that don't follow me and probably don't even know who I am, just like laughing at the notion that this is highly functional. And my mailbag question is what the hell is wrong with it? Like, yeah, if you like have to critique, like, pretend like expansion isn't even on the table. If you had to sharpen or critique what is already in place, what is your number one gripe?
The tournament this year made sense. I mean, you may complain that Notre Dame didn't get in. I think that would be maybe your chief complaint, or that Texas didn't get in.
Or that JMU did, because there are people out there that think that G5 teams shouldn't be in it.
Right, but that's the way the rules were set up. Now, in this particular case, it was because the ACC champion was not as good. And those rules are changing, by the way. Like if this were next year, the ACC champ would get in. And so Duke would have a spot instead of JMU.
I'm all for sharpening things. They sharpened a lot of things after the first year, namely the seeding.
Yeah,
right.
But they didn't rip it up willy-nilly. They didn't double the size of it. They didn't do any of that. But that is something they are kicking around. Right now you have essentially 9 of the conferences. 9 of the conferences want 16 teams, and one of the conferences wants 24. And you actually may have some people moving toward the 24 from the conferences that won 16.
Yeah, this is how it starts, Andy. It's the first year or the first time you hear about it, it's crazy. Then the next year, it's the debate. Then the year after that, it's, hey, this could work. And then the next year it happens. It's going to happen. But
something's going to happen. But the question we got from Auburn Blazer, who read your column, now Auburn Blazer clearly follows you and knows what you're talking about and understands these issues really well. And it's this is the real question here. So here's the question from Auburn Blazer. Ari, do we know why there's such an urgency now when we had the same playoff format from 2014 to 2023? It's frustrating as a fan to see so many changes, most of which are knee-jerk overreactions to a weird and uncommon result. So I like that question a lot. And I think we do need to drill down into why this is all happening now. And I don't necessarily think it's happening because somebody got left out of the playoff or somebody wasn't happy with their lot in life. I think it's more global than that. I think the reason we're seeing these conferences talk about such drastic changes is they are looking for more money. They are looking to find new revenue streams. And the larger the playoff, the more money they can make. The more radically they change the playoff, the more they have to sell. And I think that's a big piece of it. And I think it's very short-sighted. And the reason they want money is now you've had the whole economic model of sport flipped on its ear, because now you have to pay the players. And it's become very clear that they're not going to be able to limit themselves with how much they pay. They're not going to be able to set a cap legally. So they want to figure out how to make more money so that they can pay the players without having to lay everybody else off or radically renovate how they do business. Here's my thing about this, Ari. All of this could change even more in the next 5 years. The structure of the sport could change even more in the next 5 years. They need to figure out the structure of the sport before they make the postseason. And we saw this, and it's actually funny because this is what you wrote about in your column. They accidentally landed in a functional system because of changes that were really outside the school's control. NIL, they were forced into the transfer portal thing because of legal issues. So they didn't mean to do that. It just happened.
Yeah, if the sport was still operating like it did in 2019 or 18 or 17 or the 20 years before those years, I would still wish that we were in a 4-team era. So the fact that like we are now in the 12-team era makes perfect sense. And this is what I wanted to say to you, Andy. I've been dying to say this. And I think I wrote it in the column. But if and when we get to a place where 4 more years or 5 more years go by in this current system, and we do get to a landing spot where actually 25 teams are good enough to win it, then I would be open to having that conversation at that point. My only point is that we should like take our time to make sure that the changes that we make are done for the good of the game. And there's no rush to do it because right now it exists the way it is. And if we get to a place in 2030 or 2029 where there are 10 or 11 quality enough teams that we perceive are good enough to win getting left out, then you have a problem. That was never the case, even in the 4-team field. The 4-team field was as exclusive of a playoff club as there is in all of sports, but it never really felt after they selected those 4 teams that you were leaving out 5 or 6 that could actually compete with those 4. If we had a 4-team field last year, it would have been insane, right? Because there are so many other teams, like Oregon would have been out.
Miami would have been out. The team that played for the national title.
Excuse me. Ole Miss would have been out. Like all these teams that actually made runs or, were competitive on a grand scale wouldn't have been in. And I don't think that's the case right now. What I do think is that Notre Dame would have been competitive. Mm-hmm. And I think that maybe one or two other teams may have been competitive in the last 2 years. But as you've pointed out, and I agree with, if teams that are capable are left out right at the end, that means you're at the right number.
Exactly.
You're not going to have
that tells you you're at the right number, not that you need to increase the number. But my biggest problem is they're letting the tail wag the dog here. They need to figure out the sport itself. How is the sport going to look with all these next set of regular season TV contracts that come in 2030 and 2031? Is there going to be a Super League? Is it going to be a FBS with 136 teams, or is it going to be something smaller than that? Is it going to be conferences as we know them? Is it going to be divisions? All of that is still left to be decided. You've got to figure out how you're going to handle paying the players. You've got to figure out whether you're going to negotiate with the players and have a collective bargaining agreement. You got to figure out if Congress is going to pass a bill for you, which they're not going to pass one that lets you just impose a salary cap. So probably you're going to have to collectively bargain with the players. Like, you need to figure out all of that stuff first, then figure out what the postseason should look like, because you don't even know what your regular season is going to look like.
But I think that the short answer to the question, and you touched on this, is the entire financial structure of the sport has changed. Players and people are being compensated that weren't previously compensated, and they're trying to increase their wallet so that they can pay for these things.
But the thing is, the big money, the biggest money is in them selling their TV rights together and them selling the regular season and the postseason together. That's the real money. Meanwhile, you've got the SEC and the Big Ten fighting against that idea because they don't want to lose the power gap that they currently maintain. And then you have everybody else.
The dysfunction kicks in, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, like, and here's the biggest misunderstanding. And Andy, you were at a dance class or something today? I don't know what you were doing, but you were in the middle.
About that later.
Yeah, I saw some of the videos. They look pretty wild, and I really enjoyed your footwear in those. But I do think that there's a huge misunderstanding too of why they're doing it, if there's a necessity to do it, and what I prefer. Like, what I and what we, or a lot of us, prefer as consumers isn't always going to measure up or be parallel to what is being done from a desire standpoint from the greedy. So even if college football has to go to 24 in order to foot the bills on a lot of the things that they weren't previously paying for, or whatever their motivation is, that doesn't mean that the consumer, me, you, Andy, and everybody else, can't take exception to that, because we're still trying to protect what makes the sport the best. And we're not concerned about who is making the most money or how they make it or what they do to make more than their counterpart. We don't get any of that money. What we care about is the sport itself and whether the games and the competition and the system are both entertaining and logical. And sometimes what you do to make more money, not sometimes, most of the time, doesn't measure up with what's actually functional and reasonable and rational. I'm fighting for rationality here. I'm not worried about who's making the most money or how much money they're making, and maybe I'm a bad businessman, but I'm not a conference commissioner. I'm a college football podcaster, and my opinions are based on what I would like to watch the most, not what makes the most money.
Right. The problem is there is no person in charge of college football who's looking out for the best interests of college football. Greg Sankey at the SEC, Tony Petitti at the Big Ten, Brett Yormark at the Big 12, Jim Phillips at the ACC. They can all say that they're interested in the best interests of college football, but the fact of the matter is their jobs are not to be supporters and cheerleaders for college football. Their jobs are to protect their conference, make their conference as much money as possible, make their conference as strong and healthy as possible. And sometimes those purposes don't align.
And I don't even
best for the
resent these
game
people for
versus
doing
the
it.
best for the SEC and the best for the Big Ten and the best for the ACC. They don't always align, and that's where we're at right now.
And I don't even resent them for doing it because they have a job to do just like we have a job to do. You don't get mad at somebody who pours concrete for pouring concrete. Like their job is to make more money and to favor power for their conferences. And I think that they're all, like, obviously Petiti and Sankey and all the other commissioners are all good at their jobs. So my only thing is to provide a voice to the consumer, because I am one of them.
Yep.
In order to try to push back at some of these changes before they happen, although inevitably we are probably going to arrive at a place that maximizes as much income for the people who are worried about that.
But if they're going to maximize the income, there's a different way to do it. They're not trying to maximize the income for everybody. They're trying to maximize the income for themselves. And that, again, is part of the problem. And they're going to just change stuff to change it without thinking about what the consequences of that are going to be. Because, I mean, maybe they're not worried about it. Maybe these guys are like, oh, well, I'm not going to have this job in 8 years, so it's not going to even matter to me. But we're all going to still be watching the sport in 8 years. So,
well, and the other problem too, and like we get into fights, like while you were dancing today, Ralph Russo was coming at me over text, and we have a very funny relationship.
Our friend from the Athletic. Yeah.
And if you listen to the show, you know who he is. He's the athletic reporter who antagonizes me constantly. But then he's like trying to explain to me why the playoff expanded. And it's like, you're explaining to me why they did it and what their motivation was. I'm trying to explain to you that that's not what I like. And I think that that's like a different conversation.
Well, and he takes issue with you saying that they lucked into this being functional.
They did.
I agree with you completely that they did.
Yeah.
And I was the one who said they should expand it. I was all for the expansion to 12, but I was hoping something like this would happen. But it wasn't the expansion to 12 that made this happen. It was the other structural changes to the sport that made this happen. So it's a pure coincidence that the 12 turned out to be a good number.
Yeah.
Pure coincidence.
Like, I don't think that you're ever going to get to a place in college football, and maybe one day you will, but that means that not everybody's participating, where every single thing is firing on all cylinders like the NFL, where a talent accumulation, recruiting, transfer portal, NIL, disparity in incomes, all these different things that are hard to, we're never going to solve all of those things, I don't think, because there's so many teams and so many geographical areas and different levels and different incomes and different fan bases. It's really hard to get everybody completely on the same page. But Andy, as somebody who over the years has been, willing to complain about things, I thought last year was awesome. Like, I had a great time last year. Watching it, talking about it, the way it turned out, the right team won. We had great games in the playoff. There's always going to be blowouts, but there were fewer this year. The seeding was functional. There was great debate throughout the year that was highly relevant and turned out to be, crucial in making the decision. Somebody got left out. Drama was at play. Like, what is it that we're so desperate to fix from a fan level? Maybe people who are worried about
that's the thing. They're not worried about from a fan level.
Yeah.
They're worried about how do we make this as lucrative for us as possible in this individual circumstance, and not how do we make everybody's product better so we all make more money and that we all have a healthier product going forward. They're not thinking about it that way.
Who is making decisions or forming opinions of how the playoff should be based on what literally just happened to you last year, that's a short-sighted viewpoint, because you have to let years accumulate and circumstances play out before we know. You might be upset. Like, if you're a Notre Dame fan, you might be pissed off right now. If you're an Alabama fan, you might be pissed off because you were on the ropes at the end of the year when you didn't feel like you should have been. But just because something happened to you doesn't mean that you won't be the beneficiary of it in the future. The system might not be broken. You might have just been on the wrong side of the tracks during a very functional year. So the people who are the power brokers of the sport might be trying to fix a problem, which is all financial related. But if you are a fan like me, if you're a consumer like me, I don't really know what leg you have to stand on in terms of why last year sucked or what last year was bad about it. Like, I don't want to fix anything from last year. Maybe some of the rules and tampering and NIL disparity and all the like transfer stuff that happens, you might want to clean up. But like in terms of the actual product that we got, it was freaking awesome.
Yeah. But they're going to change everything anyway because they don't listen to us.
And after all that 20 minutes of discussion, we don't mean shit and they're going to do whatever they want. So, And when I say we, I mean all of us.
Right. Yeah. We're not saying that Ari and I are special in any way. We are people who love watching college football like you guys. And
literally, just you with a microphone in front of our faces.
Yeah. Yeah. Next question from Nathan on location in Greece.
This is wild.
Hey, Andy and Ari. So I'm here at the Parthenon in Athens with a college football question. You guys talk a lot about who's going to be the best quarterback this upcoming year, which is a topic that Ari stinks at. But who was the most impactful, who were the most impactful quarterbacks last year? Now, I don't mean the best. I don't mean the most skilled. I mean, what quarterbacks had the biggest impact on their team? So an example of someone you couldn't use would be Julian Sayin. Because let's face it, you could have put an average quarterback on Ohio State's team and they probably still would have won at least 11 games. So Julian Sayin, while he's a great quarterback, wouldn't count for this. I'm looking at someone who increased dramatically the number of wins their team got purely by being the quarterback on that specific team.
It's a good question.
And can I just jump in here and just say more of that? That was awesome. If you want to submit a question through video, like that looked like a Jeopardy clue, and I'm like so happy that it was like on our show. And by the way, they say Athens is one of the best college campuses in America. I've never seen that before. You'll have to take me by that sometime.
When you go to the Parthenon the next time we go?
I like how I'm getting jabbed in Greece. Like the guy's telling me I suck at picking quarterback. I do. You're right. I do. But like,
I'm bad too, right? I feel like we were both very bad at that last year.
I think everyone was bad. So I have answers to this question. I know you have answers to this
I have a couple, yeah.
But I thought there was one that stood out more than any of the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be Diego Pavia at Vanderbilt.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I think that he fits the question perfectly because Vanderbilt had one of the best seasons in program history, was actually legitimately very good. And he isn't really viewed as a highly touted NFL prospect. I thought he was just a badass college quarterback with a badass personality that galvanized a community. And I think that you could make the case that if Clark Lee keeps that running, that like Diego Pavia might be the single most important player in program history, let alone just for that own team. Like he might not have just built up his team. He might have helped build the program.
Well, and it's a good question. Like, does Jared Curtis flip to Vanderbilt? This is
he doesn't exist.
Right. The highly touted recruit who was going to go to Georgia flips to Vanderbilt and is probably going to be the starter at Vanderbilt in 26.
2-10.
Yeah. He doesn't go there. He may not go to Georgia, but he would have gone somewhere else. He wouldn't have gone to Vanderbilt.
And I think that proof of concept and seeing improvement and being competitive. Now, I think that sometimes the whole do recruits pick you because you won or lost a game in the past week is kind of overrated. Like, we used to write columns about, is this the smartest time to have a huge official visit weekend because you're playing a team that might beat you? And it's like, I don't think that recruits will be like, oh, you lost, I'm out on this place. But I do think that if you are a cellar dweller, and how many years has Vanderbilt been the SEC punchline? Decades? For them to actually be very good. Like they weren't just good for Vanderbilt. They were a legitimately good college team last year that in many years I think would have been good enough to make the playoff. A 10-2 team in the SEC is going to make the playoff more often than not. And they did it in a way that shows that they can be competitive against the juggernauts. So like they might not be there yet, but if you want to have a sales pitch of, hey, look at the growth we had, look at all the players that have gotten better under our leadership, and look how fun this can be, get us over the top. That's a sales pitch that you cannot make if you stink.
I think that's exactly right. I think it's interesting because yours is in the SEC. I have two from the SEC that I think fit this category. I think Ty Simpson, especially knowing what we know now about the rest of Alabama's offense, Ty Simpson deserves an awful lot of credit. And I think he's going to get it in the NFL draft because he came out of the combine looking even better. That choice to go pro looks even better now. He turned down a lot of money. He actually, and I remember when he was debating that decision, I was going over what the NFL rookie salary scale said, and this is how high he has to go to actually make money. Ari, he may actually make money.
I mean, I've been seeing mock drafts in the top half of the first round.
Yeah,
like he's got a lot of momentum.
That is the right choice. Yeah. Like he made the right choice.
And maybe he made it knowing that what would happen, because like the people, agents and NFL draft experts too, like have an idea of how deep is a position group, and the hype happens, and when the hype happens, like you all of a sudden can shoot up a few rounds, and I do think that he is an NFL guy too. I don't think he's just moving up.
Yeah, and not like a guy who's going to be on a roster, but like an NFL starting quarterback.
Yeah, I think that he would be worthy of a first round pick. And
they beat. Think about this: they beat Georgia at Georgia, they beat Vanderbilt, they beat Missouri, they beat Tennessee, all in that stretch in a row, and that doesn't happen without Ty Simpson being incredibly clutch. He was awesome on 3rd and 4th down plays during that stretch. Now he got banged up. Teams by the end of the year also figured out that they can't run the ball. And so it got much harder for him as time went on. But I thought he was very impactful. And I actually, you kind of worry about what Alabama would have been like had one of the younger guys had to play instead of Ty Simpson. I mean, maybe it would have been fine because Keelan Russell and Austin Mack, one of them is going to be a starter next year.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you have to say Fernando Mendoza. So people, it's clearly Fernando Mendoza's on this list. But Andy, can I get you another curveball that you might not have thought of?
Yeah, please.
And then I'll let you go with yours. What about Joey Aguilar?
Oh, I think Joey Aguilar helped the situation, helped Tennessee quite a bit because I don't think Tennessee expected the defensive drop off that they had from 24. They obviously knew they were losing Nico after the spring, and there was big concern about that. I'm not sure Joey wasn't better operating Josh Heupel's offense than Nico was when he was there.
I mean, you think about what they were supposed to be last March, the dire situation that they found themselves in, the fact that they got him from the place that Nico left to, and how high of a level he played in some of those big moments, throwing the ball downfield. Like Tennessee didn't have the year that it wants to have. Tennessee is always going to want more, and I love that about them. But when you think about how that could have gone, and you think about what it looked like to watch Tennessee on the TV on Saturday nights, like it was night and day what it could have been. And I think that he deserves some credit for that. So, again, maybe not a high, NFL guy, but certainly somebody that I would, have in consideration in the vein of the question.
And I want to go back to Mendoza for a second, because you could probably say, oh, they had a lot of talent, or it was so much Signetti. No, Mendoza was the perfect guy at the perfect time. And he had to perform in big moments. Like that Penn State game, the comeback. He made some incredible throws on that comeback. When he throws the pick 6 at Oregon, and then he marches them right back down the field. Like he stepped up in the biggest moments. The run in the national championship game, he was awesome. And so definitely Mendoza. The other one I would say is one who at this time last year, most people had no idea who he was. Trinidad Chambliss. Transfers from Ferris State with the intent of being the backup at Ole Miss. It was content to back up Austin Simmons. And then Austin Simmons gets hurt in week 2. Chambliss comes in. I don't know. We'll find out with Austin Simmons. He's transferred to Missouri, and I still think he could be a very good college quarterback. But Trinidad Chambliss makes magic. Like, they do not get where they go without Trinidad Chambliss.
Without question. And probably didn't think when he showed up in Oxford that he would be the poster boy of a playoff run, the most important piece once the coach spurned the program. And then, of course, the most important or, interesting offseason storyline.
Yes, and there is a new development with that we discussed yesterday. So after the show finished yesterday, we got a little bit of news about the NCAA appealing Trinidad Chambliss's injunction. So Ari and I broke down what that means and what might happen. So here is that. The NCAA has appealed a Mississippi judge's ruling that would allow Trinidad Chambliss to play quarterback for Ole Miss in 2026. They're appealing to the Mississippi State Supreme Court in an 18-page appeal filed on Thursday. The NCAA is arguing that Judge Robert Whitwell should not have granted an injunction to Trinidad Chambliss that will allow him to play while he's suing the NCAA. It's very interesting to see how this works out, Ari, because everybody asked while we were watching that thing, because remember, it was like a 6-hour hearing, and the last hour of it was the judge just reading his ruling verbatim. And it was pages and pages long. And the lawyers who were watching it at the time said this is an attempt to make this appeal proof. And so the question is it appeal proof? Will we find out that this ruling is airtight, or will it get thrown out by the Supreme Court?
I don't know. I'm at the point, though, where I'm kind of exhausted by this, and I hope he wins. I don't want this to continue. I think that he had a pretty good case. I thought he had a unique case. And, frankly speaking, after we got done talking about that for a month and watching the hearing that felt like a month, it felt like a pretty reasonable, request and a pretty reasonable. It didn't feel like he was trying to win one over on somebody. So I understand that the NCAA is probably going to do what it should do, and that's make sure that not every single challenge or rule that it has is challenged, and it has some ground to stand on. So I think that we probably anticipated this would happen. But in this specific case, I'm not sure if Trinidad Chambliss is the worthy opponent here. Like I think that there are other people who have made other cases that aren't quite as airtight, or at least reasonable from my perspective, for them to be wasting their energy on.
Well, in its statement after the ruling was made in the local court, basically the NCAA said it illustrates the impossible situation created by different court decisions that serve to undermine rules agreed to by the same NCAA members who later challenged them in court. Now, I'll point out, Ole Miss is not challenging this in court. Trinidad Chambliss is challenging this in court. And this is different. And this is not like the Joey Aguilar case, which the NCAA won. This is not like the Charles Bediako case, which the NCAA won. This one, basically, Trinidad Chambliss was arguing that he should be granted a medical red shirt for 2022 when he did not play at Ferris State. They presented medical evidence. Now, you can say whatever you want about enlarged tonsils and what that means, but they presented medical evidence to the NCAA, and what their argument is that the NCAA sometimes grants these and sometimes doesn't, and it is not very consistent about how it grants those. That is something you can argue in court. That is probably a lot more quote unquote legitimate argument than I just wanted to play another year and your rule that says I can only play 4 and in redshirt 1 is wrong. The NCAA, I believe,
because the claim is true. It is inconsistent, I should say. Sorry.
The same week that his injunction was granted, I believe they gave an 8th year to one player, a football player in the NCAA. So in Division I. So it's happened plenty of times where they've granted medical red shirts. It's happened where they've denied medical red shirts.
And you don't know what the difference is.
Right. Exactly. So what they're arguing is that it's arbitrary how they decide this. And I think that's what makes this a little bit different than the other cases. The Charles Bediako case felt like a pretty clear, this was the basketball player who had played in the G League, wanted to come back to Alabama, actually was granted an injunction, played 5 games for Alabama, but then same situation, a local court, a state court in Alabama, judge as an Alabama grad, said, no, I'm not granting you this injunction. You're not going to be able to keep playing, because that judge did not want to be responsible for changing a rule, because essentially the rule said if you leave college, go pro, you can't come back. And nobody's effectively challenged that rule. The NCAA's never allowed anyone to do that. But the NCAA has had plenty of cases where somebody has said, I had a medical issue in this year where I did not play, even though I had already redshirted once. Can I get another year? And they have granted it in some cases, and they had not granted it in other cases. So,
and in this specific case, they had documentation of Ferrer State's failure to do so on his behalf, which I think is also important when it lines up with the medical records and the claims that you're making. So, like, I don't know. Honestly speaking, it's been kind of bizarre to see the fight back because, I do believe that Trinidad Chambliss is somebody who could play in the league, and I anticipate that a year from now, if he plays at Ole Miss, he will. And I think that maybe this is more of a good faith attempt to, continue his education, continue his college career in order to develop further and play on a good team and all those things. And it doesn't necessarily mean this is the end of the road for me in playing football. My only chance of making money in football is by abusing the rules. This isn't what happened here. So I don't know if the NCAA is going to be successful in their appeal, but I'm kind of at the point now where I think college football is better off with him. And I hope that he continues to be on the right side of things in the legal battle that's ongoing.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't, again, the judge reading the ruling verbatim, there was a reason for that. And I think it was probably to keep this appeal from being successful. And, if Joey Aguilar had won his case, so Joey Aguilar's the Tennessee quarterback, had spent multiple years in junior college and then came to Appalachian State and then spent his last year at Tennessee. Like if he had won an injunction, which by the way, that was also state court, that was in Knoxville. So it was home field advantage for the Tennessee quarterback. He lost. Had he won, I would understand the NCAA being very aggressive in its appeal. And because that was another case where you just haven't seen that. They haven't granted that before. Again, the Chambliss one is different. And so, but I get that they're going to fight back on anything that they feel
what's your
like.
Read on as our quasi law degree possessor? I know you did not.
I don't have a law degree. We're going to set that record straight right now.
It feels like you do, so just own it. But like, what is your take or your feel of the NCAA's likelihood of succeeding in the appeal?
See, that part I don't know. I don't know enough about how the legal system in Mississippi works to say, the cases that get brought before the Mississippi State Supreme Court are overturned, this many times. I don't know. I do know that the reason that hearing went the way it went was to basically inoculate it against an appeal. And so, I don't know, the judge spelled it out because, again, we heard the whole ruling because we listened to it. The judge spelled it out where he thought the NCAA decided unfairly against Trinidad Chambliss that they, maybe they didn't take certain things into account. And remember, this is an injunction. He didn't say that the Trinidad Chambliss won his case against the NCAA. There's a lot left before that would happen. And all he said was, I think he'd be harmed if he wasn't allowed to play while he was pursuing this case. And I think he might win on the merits of the case, that's how judges decide on whether they're going to grant injunctions or not. And I think in both of those cases, they have a fairly decent argument because, again, if they go into discovery on this case, there will be a bunch of stuff dug up where the NCAA had, X amount of evidence saying this person should get a medical red shirt, and here's where they gave somebody one, and here's where they didn't. And they'll be asked to explain the differences in those cases. And so if you think there's a chance that Trinidad Chambliss might win that case, you grant him the injunction. And that's what happened there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess we'll keep people updated. We haven't heard the last.
We will keep you updated. Yeah. As the Trinidad Chambliss case turns, as the Mississippi judicial system turns, we need to create like a cheeky primetime soap opera, Mississippi Legal, something like that.
Yeah.
Tom Mars, Trinidad Chambliss's attorney, has promised that the NCAA will be, I believe, what did he say to Pete Thamel? That they will be spitting chiclets. That they basically get their teeth knocked out in this appeal. So pretty strong words from Trinidad Chambliss's attorney. But I don't know. He seems pretty confident. The judge did it the way he did it to counteract the effects of an appeal, or to keep an appeal from being effective. I don't know that the NCAA is going to win this one. I think they're probably fighting an uphill fight, but we will keep you posted. All right. Back to the mailbag. This was from Day. This is a very interesting question here. Mm-hmm. Dear Andy and Ari, with Clemson and Florida State now struggling and the playoffs maybe getting expanded, does this change their pursuit of getting out of the ACC? It's been quiet on that front, it seems. This is an interesting question because these obviously are the two schools that sued their conference and got a settlement that essentially will allow them to leave if they want to around, I don't know, the time the Big Ten and SEC TV deals are up next. And we haven't heard much since then. Now, I would say that they got pretty favorable terms in the settlement. But what's interesting about this settlement, Ari, is basically they got uneven revenue sharing in the ACC. They got the ACC to give more money to the teams that win and do well and get a lot of viewers in their football games. Well, guess who that was last year? That was Miami. And Miami got to keep all its playoff money.
Yeah, I think that the biggest misnomer, Andy, with all of this stuff is that people view recent past and then think that maybe it's stock market brain because, the Dow goes down 1,000 and up 1,000 every other day.
Yeah.
That the values of these assets change so dramatically in a given, time frame because they were good or bad or whatever. And I think that the reality of this is that Clemson and Florida State remain incredibly valuable viewing properties. And their placement in the ACC and their future in that conference or another one doesn't fluctuate on an annual basis. These are still teams that have won, Clemson has won 2 national titles in the last decade. Florida State has won a national title in the semi-recent past. And these are teams
gone undefeated 3 years ago.
And these are also teams too that are fully equipped with the right leadership to fix whatever issues they have in a single offseason and be awesome again. So, I don't think that we should Florida State stinks right now. Yes, they do stink right now. It's been one of the major stories ever. Does that mean that I don't want them in my conference for the next 30 years? You got to think about it long term. Apple
because if down. Let's say Mike Norvell doesn't make it and they hire somebody else who turns out to be awesome, all of a sudden they're right back.
Yeah. Apple stock goes down 3 or 4% because there's a report out there that they're producing fewer iPhones based on a part that they didn't order as much of as they did the year before, and the stock goes down 6%. Do you not want to hold that for 30 years? That's how you should be viewing this. So I don't know what's going to happen or when it's going to happen. Obviously, it seems like the early 2030s seems to be the time based on the television deals that, things might start rattling around a little bit. But I don't think that Florida State or Clemson or North Carolina, for that matter, or now even Miami, are any less or more valuable than they would have been 2 years ago when this stuff started.
I don't think their plans have changed one bit. I also don't think they know what's going to happen yet because it's unclear what's going to happen with the Big Ten and the SEC. They're too busy arguing over what the playoff format's going to look like. And we don't know what the sport as a whole is going to look like. You've got secret meetings going on this week. There was this meeting in Dallas with a company called Smash Sports and leaders of different schools where they're talking about potentially trying to pool all the TV rights together and sell them as one, which would be hugely beneficial to the ACC and the Big 12, would make more money for the Big Ten and the SEC, but they don't really want that because they would like to keep the power gap as large as the revenue gap. And if you close the revenue gap a little bit, you probably close the power gap a little bit. So that's the issue here, is that nobody really knows where this is all going to land, what it's all going to look like when the wheel stops spinning. And I think that's probably, if you're Florida State and Clemson, you just try to put yourself in the best possible position for when that happens. Now, you mentioned the what have you done for me lately aspect of this. And of course, you'd want to hold a valuable asset, even if it's having a bad moment. But I also think if you're the leadership at Florida State and Clemson, it's really important to you to be good at football in 2027 and 28 and 29, when some of the probably more impactful things are going to be happening that may shape what conference you wind up in for the next 30 years.
Yeah, and the difference between this and the NFL is that I don't think that Jerry Jones is, concerned about having more power than the Cincinnati Bengals with every single move that he makes. I don't think the NFC and the AFC are at odds with each other to be more influential. They're all on the same page and they all want to make a lot of money. And in college football, that's clearly not the case. You have member institutions that want to, have power, and they want to be a part of powerful conferences that are in turn trying their power struggles with how the other conferences stack up and how the playoff work. So definitely a good question, but I don't think it fluctuates nearly as much as people think.
No, I don't either. And, if you're asking what they are doing, they are still behind the scenes doing all the stuff they can to be in position where when the moves happen, they have an opportunity to go to the strongest conferences possible. Whether that's going to be available to them is unclear. Like, we don't know if the Big Ten or the SEC will even want to expand.
Yeah.
We have no idea. So we'll have to see what happens, but great question. Ari, our next question isn't really a question. It's more of a statement. And it's from our friends at Awful Announcing. They tweeted this out when the Big 12 tournament court was unveiled for the first time for the Big 12 women's tournament. This court is also going to be used for the Big 12 men's tournament next week. It is an LED. It's a glass court with LED underneath that essentially it's a giant TV screen. It can create whatever images you want. And Awful Announcing says the Big 12 can't keep getting away with this. They hate the court, and went on
What's
to
hate about it.
I guess that it's gimmicky and goofy and has the interlocking Roman numeral 12 logos that people didn't like about the court last year. But I gotta say, I have no problem with this. Like, I don't want this in my national championship game. I really don't want this like in my MAC championship, like when somebody's really trying to make the NCAA tournament. But in the Big 12 championship, where the teams that are going to make it are going to make it, and the ones that aren't. Yeah, give me this. This looks freaking cool.
Why wouldn't you want that in your national championship?
It's just too much, too distracting. I want it to be about the basketball there. But in this case, this is awesome.
You realize
it looks so cool.
This is the future of basketball courts. Everyone's going to have this one day.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right.
Badass.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't distract them while they're playing, it's badass. What's not to like about it?
That's true. And yeah, I guess you could if you wanted to. Like, if the NBA wanted to get really gimmicky, if they did it, like in the All-Star game, they could just have like a spotlight up, and if you shoot from that spot, you get 10 points or something like that.
You can't just you could turn it into a whole game of grab ass if you wanted to, but like, Can you imagine putting someone's headshot up while they're getting introduced and coming onto the court with the flames going? It's just the next generation.
Or they're about to shoot a free throw on one end, and you project their headshot on the other side of the court.
So people in the stands can actually see like the statistics of that person from the free throw line, and as long as it doesn't disrupt the game, right? Like, I'm all for technology making things cooler. Quit, maybe it's just it's like an attempt by me to not get old and get mad about everything. But like, of all the things in sports, and especially college sports, there is to get mad about, why would you care if the basketball court of the Big 12 tournament is badass? Also, is this not just like, if you could just describe Brett Yormark to a human being, would you not just show them this clip? I just show them the court. And if you're listening in podcast form, we are showing the court right now as it is projecting the different logos of the teams at mid-court. And it's got this whole light show going. Which while they play, I know you can't see it. It looks like a regular basketball court right now. Like, what is the court going to look like while they're playing?
Well, the women's tournament has already begun, and they're playing on that court, it doesn't do much while they're actually playing. It's when there's stoppages in play, that's when it does things. Yeah. Now, it essentially could be a TV if you want it to, because they're basically playing on a giant iPad. Yeah. So it could be a TV if you wanted it to be. And I've heard people say, you could have action from the other tournaments. Like during a timeout, you could just call up the broadcast of the ACC tournament on the court. That'd be pretty cool. Like, I was at the Big 12 championship game. Remember the year Ndamukong Suh dominated Texas, and then Texas still won the game? Mm-hmm. So that was 2009. So the SEC championship game came on right before that, and it was Florida and Alabama, and both of them were undefeated. that one was incredible to watch on the Jerry World scoreboard. Like, so as the Texas and Nebraska players are warming up, they're showing the SEC championship game on the Jerry World scoreboard. Like, how cool would that be? Like between games when the players are warming up, like you just have the SEC tournament highlights and the ACC tournament highlights. And what's going on? Here's what's going on in the Big Ten tournament.
Like of March Madness is that there is a million things going on during what you're watching.
Yeah.
That's the entire thing. You can't watch all of March Madness by watching one game at a time. You have to watch 7 at a time. Why wouldn't you want a court that, and like you can't even, you want to talk about revenue boosting? Start selling ads from the court. Why wouldn't they have a McDonald's commercial during the break on the court?
I'm sure they've already done that. Like Brett Yormark has already thought of that. I guarantee you that. I like this court. It's funny. I think back to years and years ago. I was in a bar in Tampa, and all of the TVs in the bar, it was not a sports bar, by the way. And it was one of those things where they probably put the TVs up to play music videos or something like that. But all of the TVs in this bar had Black Hawk Down on. And it was like,
it's a weird vibe, because I was once in a bar in Toronto that was playing Dumb and Dumber on all the TVs, and I thought it was an incredible vibe. Yeah.
Same thing. Like, people were getting into Black Hawk Down. and so I was thinking, why not at a bar, like just have a rewatchable movie on? It could be, that kind of movie, or it could be Dumb and Dumber, or it could be Billy Madison or whatever.
Yeah.
But I felt like that was fun. Do that on the court. Like, just throw Billy Madison on the court between games.
River just gave the best suggestion, which is Mrs. Doubtfire. That's a movie that you can watch. My daughter's obsessed with that movie, right? Like, she's now finally getting into the princess stuff, but she's watched Mrs. Doubtfire 900 million times. And like, she never watched all the kid YouTube videos and stuff. Like, she got into like live action movies. And it was pretty crazy because she's in that phase, Andy, and I'm sure your kids did this too, where they're, 4 years old, turning 5 in a few months, and they just ask why about everything. And it was kind of crazy having to explain to her what was going on in the bathroom during the bridges scene. It is a timeless classic, and rest in peace to Robin Williams, one of the real ones. Yeah.
All right, before we get off this Big Ten topic, we need to have a brief draft. We haven't done a lot of random ranking stuff. We're just going to have a draft real quick of all of the eats at the Big 12 tournament. So there's a team theme food item for every team at the Big 12 tournament this year. And so we got 16 teams. That's going to be eight apiece. Ari, you have the list. I have the list. I'm going to give you the first choice. What are you taking number 1?
I think that this is kind of interesting because you could do it the opposite way, which is like drafting what you think the other person would take first. Mm-hmm. And like, I'm struggling because I know what I want first, but I know you're not taking it first. So I'm trying to figure out how to do this. So I'm going to do
embrace your inner trash panda.
So I'm going to do something that I think you would really want, and I would want to first. And that would be the Baylor brisket sliders.
Oh, it is a good choice. Good choice. I am going to go with the Mountaineer pepperoni first.
No! Did you just do that to fight me? There's no way that's your number 1 overall pick. I'm calling bullshit on that. There's no way.
I love a pepperoni roll. This is because I don't know how good some of this stuff's going to be. I know that's going to be great.
I don't even want to continue this.
Well,
because that was the thing I was referring to that I don't think you're going to take number 1 because I'm
going to hit some highlights then. First of all, I would not have picked Sparky's smoked boneless wings because there's no such thing as a boneless wing. Have you ever seen a boneless chicken?
Andy,
break your heart.
That was my second pick. I'll gladly take them number 2.
I would like Big J's loaded mac and cheese in honor of Kansas. That looks pretty delicious. It's just a giant pile of mac and cheese with pork on top. Yeah. The UCF Citronaut drink, I figured was going to be the last pick, and then I looked up what it is. It is frozen orange soda and soft serve vanilla ice cream. That would have been my number 2 pick.
So since you took the pepperoni roll and put a stake through my heart. I'm going to take the OSU's Oklahoma State Orange Power Chicken pizza. And I think that's like a pepperoni pizza with some bacon on there and some ranch dressing on it. Like a good pizza. I have to like supplement my pepperoni roll, the whole of that you put in my heart. I still don't think that's your first pick. I think you did that to make me upset.
No, that's definitely it right there.
Yeah.
Man, the brisket tacos were a good choice. Your alma mater, no love for the Wildcat mini chimichangas?
No, but I do have some love for the Cosmo churros from BYU. Those look pretty fire.
I need to know what I think I can make out from the picture what the Utah Madeira special is. It looks like a burger with a big hunk of ham on top, like a cheeseburger with a giant hunk of ham on top.
Looks really good. Yeah.
I'll take that. Now, does it mean I have to call it offense?
Probably. Yeah.
Okay. So many stories of Rick Majerus doing interviews naked. So
dude, this is a pretty unbelievable menu of things. How about the TCU Cowtown loaded tots? And I don't know what the purple, drizzle is on there, but it looks like, remember when Heinz ketchup did the like weird colors where they like produced ketchup, but it was like lime green. I think that might be like some weird food coloring contraction. I don't know what it is. It would be amazing.
Yeah. I might go with the Power Cat steak tacos, the Kansas State ones. I don't know if they're going to call this the help us pay the buyout steak tacos, because they are going to have to pay the buyout.
Yeah, the Shrek ketchup. I mean, all of it looks really good, but I think you won the draft by default. And I guess the rule in life, during COVID, we had a remember in COVID, the first month where you were all locked up and you were like kind of uncertain of how long you were going to be locked up in your house. When we were at the Athletic, the entire Athletic college football staff like did drafts of random things for Twitter. And we did fast food sandwiches. And everybody who listens to the show knows that I am a purveyor of the Filet-O-Fish. But I didn't take that with my number one overall pick, kind of like what just happened here with you. And Audrey Snyder grabbed the Filet-O-Fish in the first round, and I will never forget that. And I didn't learn from it. And now, from now on, if I ever am drafting anything again, I'm not going to draft my opponent. I'm drafting myself. Because
first of all, pepperoni rolls are a delicacy.
I know, but you're a very big meat person. You like meat.
Pepperoni's meat.
No, I know, but I thought you would go for that burger with the ham on it or something, because I
knew I'd eventually get that, and there were multiple burgers. So I was finding, like, if you took one burger, I'd take the other burger. Yeah. So the pepperoni roll, unique to the school, to the location of the school, and just delicious, and also hard to screw up, because again, we're doing this at an arena concession type venue. This is not like a mom and pop restaurant that specializes in these things. But the pepperoni roll, I think it would be hard to mess up.
Yeah, there's no way that's not great. So you win the draft. But hey, congrats to the Big 12 for a badass court and a badass menu. You might be the underdog in football, but in basketball, you're king shit in my book.
Exactly right. It is a fantastic basketball conference. So next question from our friend Matt. Dear Andy and Ari, as Ari has never been to Weaver D's and will never get the chance now that it has gone to restaurant heaven, please talk about your experience with this classic city meat and three soul food institution, Andy. #automatic for the people. So Weaver D's is the longtime Athens restaurant that closed last week after 40 years in operation. Weaver D's Delicious Fine Foods was the official name. And I've been there, and it's probably most famous because the slogan on the sign is automatic for the people, which people probably recognize as the title of an REM album. And REM, of course, from Athens, Michael Stipe and Bill Berry used to eat at Weaver D's. They asked Dexter Weaver, the owner, if they could use his slogan for the album title, which, by the way, has my favorite REM song on it, Man on the Moon. So this place was awesome. It is a classic meat and three. Fried chicken is the best entree they serve, and then you just pick your veggies. When I went, I had mac and cheese, and I had collard greens.
What happened to the place?
Well, I mean, he's been operating for 40 years. It's just, I think it was time to be in. And it had some times when it was financially in danger through the years. So restaurant business is hard these days, but this place was just awesome. And so Dexter Weaver, when you went into the restaurant, you know how Italians will say prego and it can mean a lot of different things, or Hawaiians will say aloha and it can mean a lot of different things. For him, automatic meant a lot of different things. Like he'd say, okay, you order, okay, I'll have a 3-piece fried chicken and mac and cheese and collard greens. Automatic. And that'd be, I got your order. Okay, thank you. Like when I was in there, these guys were talking about the route. They were delivering ice cream and they were talking about the route and where Athens falls on their route. And he'd say automatic. And basically, like, I understand what the information you're giving me. And you leave the restaurant, automatic, goodbye. And so it is, it was one of those really cool local restaurants in a college town that just, became even bigger because it went worldwide because of this incredible album.
I'm sad. I'm mourning it's like, what's the term for nostalgia for a time you didn't live in? There's a term for that.
There is a term. I don't know that term.
I'm surprised. Hey, we stumped them, guys. Hey. But yeah, I feel remorseful that I never got to experience that. That sounds amazing.
So apparently it's going to be a burger place, according to the local news in Georgia. But yeah, so if you have a place like that in your college town that you love, please support it. Please, do what you can to patronize it. And I was thinking about that the other day. Here in Gainesville, there's an incredible chicken sandwich place called Germain's, and it's right by my daughter's dance studio. And I pass it every day. It's delicious, and I'm thinking I need to eat here at least once a week, just because this is a great local place. It does a really good job, and I need to be eating here more often.
Yeah, you don't want to take the local stuff for granted, and you don't want to be the person who drives through the neighborhood that you raised your kids in 30 years from now and be upset when the things that are institutions to your neighborhood don't exist anymore. Yeah, and that's in these college towns, things change quickly, tastes change quickly. Producer River throws up Gus's Good Times Deli in Knoxville. That's another classic. So, wherever you went to school, you got those places. Now, the place I was mentioning in Gainesville, not around probably when most people went to school. They're probably like, "What's that?" But there will be a generation of people who went to Florida, in these years, who will say, "That was one of my favorite places." So, the Weaver D's experience, I'm really glad that I got to experience it, got to go there. But yeah, if you've got a chance to go to your favorite college town restaurant, enjoy it while you can, because you never know. Things happen, things change. Automatic. Ari, we also have some suggestions, by the way. We were talking jersey patches last week and asked the people to send in some ideas. Got a few other ones from our friends, and I think I might turn this into a column at On 3 as well, because I want to match one with every team. Now, look, we've only seen LSU's in Arkansas so far. Tyson Foods in Arkansas was the one that came out this week. All of these schools are already in negotiations with the people they're going to do this with. Did you see?
We're going to get a bunch of these.
Tweeted at Colorado.
I did see that. I did the Hankster. I love those commercials. Like we could put the Hankster in a Colorado jersey. That would be fantastic. So yeah, that one's set. My friend Stephen Godfrey on the College Football Inquirer said Buc-ee's for Texas A&M. That's spectacular. Imagine that beaver patch on the A&M jersey.
I just want to get to a place where like people start comparing market caps of the companies that are like, because
we're already there. The LSU fans and the Arkansas fans were going back and forth about it.
Yeah, it's like that's the thing. It's like if Colorado gets Buffalo Wild Wings, like that can't even compare to Tyson Chicken in terms of magnitude.
Well, right. It's funny because Tyson Foods, based on their revenue last year, is probably 5 times as big as the entire sport of college football. Really, I'm assuming about it that way.
If Tyson Foods didn't exist, then B-Dubs wouldn't at all. Maybe not. Maybe they get their chicken from someone else. But still, I guess that going rate's the going rate, and if a company can afford it, they can afford it. But like, I am excited for the pissing match between your college football fans of who got the bigger company on their jersey, because that's everything.
It's going to happen. So Justin wrote in with a fascinating ACC idea. So Krispy Kreme, native to North Carolina, on Wake Forest jerseys, Duncan on Boston College's jerseys. And then they play for a donut-shaped trophy.
And then, you could make you can make it like a bowl game setting for a regular league game where the companies can have some fun with it.
Yeah, Duncan's the perfect one for Boston College. It has to be.
Yeah. Duncan's making a comeback, by the way.
Legal seafood, maybe, but everybody in New England loves Duncan. You can't. You're not walking around without seeing every third person holding a Duncan cup. Alec says Iowa's got to be John Deere.
Yeah,
got to be. Which,
perfect sense. Yep,
I agree. It matches the America Needs Farmers sticker on the helmet. Absolutely. Rob says Cincinnati. Now he also suggested Kroger, which is a big company there. But remember, Kroger already buys the naming rights to Kentucky's field. Mm-hmm. So I think you might have been aced out on that one. But Skyline Chili.
Have
a chili, have a 5-way as the patch.
Does Skyline Chili a big enough company to pull that off? I don't know. Because you can buy Skyline Chili in cans in every grocery store in America, so they have a pretty big distribution of food. I just don't know. I've never seen a Skyline Chili in another state but Ohio. Do they even have restaurants in other states?
I don't know if they do. They may have one or two satellite locations. It's interesting because in Florida, you do get the random. Here's one of the restaurant from this northern city because there's so many transplants down here.
They're probably.
I don't remember there being a Skyline.
Yeah,
like there was a Permane Brothers, the Pittsburgh sandwich shop. There was a Permane Brothers in, I want to say, Fort Lauderdale for a while.
Yeah, place sucks.
Yeah, it's interesting. Not a lot of people swear by Permane Brothers.
Idea is excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Concept is excellent. The sandwiches have a staggeringly low flavor, which is weird. You would think if you got a fat sandwich with like fries on it that it would be exploding with flavor. When you eat it, they all kind of taste the same. Now Skyline's exploding with flavor.
Yeah. Might be exploding from somewhere else
later. It's exploding with flavor that you may or may not like. I'm not.
I like Cincinnati chili. I don't mind the cinnamon in the chili. I love the idea. The idea of chili and cheese on pasta is tremendous.
I mean, I'm a trash panda that likes junk food, but I actually think that like Skyline makes a really good hot dog, like even without the chili on it.
Oh yeah.
But with
the chili on it, it's spectacular.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes. And I realize there are a lot of people who don't want the logos on the jerseys, but there's been a swoosh or a jump man or a 3 stripes on them already. So it's not like you haven't been watching the players be used as walking billboards. Now at least they're getting paid for it.
Yes. And if it helps your team be more competitive in fielding a better roster, I think would you rather win the SEC with the Tyson Chicken patch on your shoulder pads, or would you rather finish last with clean jerseys? I think we know the answer.
Exactly. Producer River asks, does Notre Dame get the NBC Peacock? That's a good one.
The Notre Dame one seems to be the most sacrilegious one out of all of them, though. Honestly, like if you had to put a patch on any jersey, like Notre Dame, Penn State, like Alabama, like the most traditional plain uniforms. But there's something about Notre Dame that kind of rubs me the wrong way. They have to do it, and they will do it. But like
I just don't know what it would be. Yeah, that's the one that feels very difficult to figure out. And I'm sure it's going to be a huge company. That's valuable real estate right there. Michigan, do they go with somebody like Ford or General Motors?
I mean, you would think that you would want to do something with automotives for all of them. But Michigan's patch also could just be Oracle.
How pissed is Illinois if Oracle is Michigan's patch? For those who don't know, Larry Ellison, the
burned.
Oracle founder, went to Illinois.
Yeah. So
his wife is a Michigan super fan.
But I'm excited to see, because like every time a team announces a partnership, we get a segment. So,
well, that was another one. My friend Godfrey goes, it's got to be Domino's, right?
Yeah.
And it just transported me right back to when Dave Brandon, the former Domino's CEO, was the Michigan athletic director. Do you remember the controversy they had? This is during the Brady Hoke era, when if you bought 2 20-ounce Coke bottles, you could get tickets to a Michigan game.
And everybody was making fun of them for that.
Oh, yeah. Just destroying them for it.
Yeah. I think that Dave Brandon was the overseer, though, of the complete evolution of Domino's, wasn't he?
He was. Because
He's Domino's used to suck.
Right, yes. And it became very good, yes.
Yeah.
As that sort of chain pizza goes, it got a lot better, yes. But it's interesting because like the Detroit metro area is the cradle of pizza chains.
The Little Caesars is from there too, right?
Domino's, Little Caesars, and Hungry Howie's.
Oh, I don't see very many Hungry Howie's around. Is that still kicking?
We still have them in Florida.
Yeah, I don't even know if they're in Dallas. But
good,
Little
good,
Caesars,
the butter cheese crust. Oh,
watch the Little Caesars dish out millions of dollars for a patch, and then all of a sudden they're hot and ready, $7 instead of $5.
I think it already is, but inflation's a bear, buddy.
Yeah.
All right. What a week. It's been spectacular. Monday. We're not sure yet. I have jury duty Monday.
Good luck.
It may be just Ari.
My mother-in-law actually got selected to be on a jury. She didn't just have jury duty. She got selected. And I was making fun of her because it's just like, get out of it. Just be an adult and get out of it. Andy, you could like call in and say, I have the flu, and they won't make you go. Did you even call the court?
But I want to do my civic duty. Now, the last time...
Your civic duty is to host the show.
The last time I was outside the courtroom, they were calling people in for voir dire, and then they walked back out, and they're like, they've reached a plea deal. Everybody can go home now. So stay tuned.
Radio hit in Omaha. They never
Stay
stopped.
tuned Monday. Ari and River on 3.